if everybody, we're going to get started. Okay. A little quiet in the audience, please. Thank you. This is the April 21st, 2022 City County Planning Commission meeting. And Mr. Peterson, if you'd call the roll, please.
Sir. Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane?
Yes.
Commissioner Gay? Commissioner Graham? Commissioner Ritchie? Commissioner Starks?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the minutes from our April the 7th, 2020 meeting. Are there any questions? They're in your packet, Commissioners. Hearing no questions, would call for a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Apologize, I'm a little behind. Who made the motion? Who seconded it?
I second.
Vitale and Ms. Drane.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert?
Abstain.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Sorry, abstain.
Commissioner Clark?
Abstain.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Unseld?
Abstain.
Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ben. Hamp?
Mr. Warren, I request that you order that the record for tonight's hearing include all of the relevant statutory and regulatory provisions, the Commission's entire file for each application, and the qualifications of each of the staff witnesses. Finally, I'd ask that you administer the oath to those witnesses.
Swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Zach, thank you. All right. Do what? We'll get on him in a minute. Ms. Mooney, if you have a presentation for our third quarter budget and then a presentation for the 2023 budget.
Yes. We'll start off with the third quarter fiscal year 22 budget. As I go through this with you guys each time or each quarter, the easiest way to tell if we're on track or not is to look at the year budget column. As quarter three, we should be roughly 75%, so we're over budget there, which is a good issue to have. The reason being for that is if you look at construction fees, we're already at $355,000 this year out of our budgeted $100,000.
Okay. All right. And then if we skip down and look to our expenses, the first category in expenses is personnel, and we're at 73.8%. We should be at 75. That's perfect. If we flip to the second page and start looking at our office expenses and some of those through there, we are, everything is below 75%, which is exactly where we want it to be. Just a quick explanation on Mpo expenses. We're at 30% of those right now. And if most of you guys remember, Mpo, usually we hit fourth quarter with those. The majority of our expenses hit then. Travel, we're low on that, and that's just again because of COVID this year. We haven't done a lot of travel. And that finishes us up at total expenditures. We're at 71.6% of the budget of 75%. So doing great there. Capital expenses, we're still way under budget on everything there. And if we skip over to the third page, you can see our operating account balance and then our subdivision surety account balance. Just to bring your attention to the balance as of the end of the third quarter, we still have $2.1 million in our subdivision surety account. We do have several items on the agenda for release tonight, which will lower that amount a little bit, but we still do have a lot in that account waiting to finish up. That's pretty much all I've got for you guys on the third quarter budget. Do you have any questions on that before we move over to the fiscal 23 proposed budget?
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, now I'm going to give a brief presentation on the proposed budget for fiscal year 23. I put a budget memo in your packets, and just to give you a quick explanation, the green column is our projected amounts that we project for the rest of this fiscal year. And we have to project those amounts to give ourselves a carryover amount so that we know where we're going to start off for next year's budget. And then the yellow column is our actual proposed budget for next year. And let's see, we're requesting the same amount of contribution from the city and the county as we did last year. Another change is, or the biggest change we have is Mpo and Transit are increasing for this next year because we're going to do a transportation study, and we're also doing a transit marketing campaign. But just as a reminder, those are pass-through amounts that does increase our budget in income and in expenses. So it's basically a pass-through. And our construction fees have been higher than budgeted for this fiscal year, and we're projecting an increase for next year too. Expenses, CERS retirement, actually this next year is going to go down from 26.95 down to 26.79. Not much of a decrease, but every little bit helps. Then we have a 7% COLA added into payroll. That is established from the Department of Kentucky local government, and they provide this on their website each year. And then our operating reserves balance is enough to cover 2 months of expenses, which is where we always try to keep that. One other column that we have added is from last year is a reserve account for equipment and vehicle reserves, and we have put a small amount of $5,000 in that just as a savings account so that we don't have big items that hit us, like having to spend $40,000 or whatever in 1 year for a vehicle. This will allow us to save a little bit each year and then buy one as needed. That's a quick rundown of the budget for next year. Do I have any questions?
You can go back to the construction costs. Walk through that line item on page 1.
The construction fees?
Construction fees, excuse me,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So I think I actually misspoke. We
Yeah.
actually have received $200,000 this year, and we have projected with what Jacob has given me, we will be at $315,000 by the end of this year. I'm sorry, I read the wrong number.
Yeah, but next year we're projecting 125.
We're projecting 125. This year we projected 110, and we've already surpassed that. So it's one of those numbers, we just never know what it's going to be.
Wasn't correcting you, it just,
Yeah.
when you said that, it was a little bit different than what we had talked about.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Any questions?
I have a question on
Sure.
GIS data acquisition. 2021-22 budget 7,500, 22-23 budget 7,500. Is that a sufficient amount to take care of the GIS with the growth we're having and everything?
So what that amount is, we have aerials flown And we contribute along with several other partners here in Warren County and in the city. And $7,500 is just our portion to have those aerials flown. We're not really sure if that's if it'll be that same amount, or if we may go a different route. Ben can actually speak better to that than I can. But that's the contract what we've been in with the city for the past several years. Yeah.
I was just thinking with the growth we're having, from our standpoint, from
Yeah.
the city standpoint. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We partner with that, and the city is the lead on that, and we just reimburse them for it. I believe that's correct, right, Ben? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just a portion of the overall contract.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Any more
Commissioner,
questions?
any questions for Ms. Mooney? Thank you so much, Megan. You're behind the scenes, but you always do a great job for us.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have two motions that need to be voted on, our third quarter budget and then our 2023 budget. So do we have a motion to accept the third quarter budget as Ms. Mooney is recommended?
Commissioner Volkert? Yes, sir. Commissioner Blackburn? Yes, sir. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane? Yes. Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Yes, Commissioner Vitale? Yes, sir. Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The motion approved. And then do we have a motion for our fiscal year 2023 budget?
Motion to approve our fiscal year 21-22 budget as prepared and presented this evening. And this has our authorization to present it to the city and the county.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane? Yes. Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert? Yes, sir. Commissioner Blackburn? Yes, sir. Chair Warren?
Sir, both motions have been approved. In your packets is the subdivision site development plans. Are there any questions? Hearing none, they will be as presented. Our letters of credit and performance bonds, there's 8 of them listed in tonight. Are there any questions regarding any of those 8 credit and performance bonds that are presented? Hearing none, would call for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the letters of credit performance bonds as presented to this commission this evening.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane? Yes. Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld?
Sir.
Commissioner Vitale? Yes, sir. Commissioner Volkert? Yes, sir. Commissioner Blackburn? Yes, sir. Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ben. We have no old business, so we enter into our public hearing tonight. Our first item is 2022-0 Flume. Christopher and Lindsay Walden have filed an application for a future land use map amendment on a tract of land containing approximately 4.91 acres located at 187 Porter Thornton Road from agriculture to rural density. If the Flume was approved, they have filed an application to rezone a tract of land containing approximately 4.91 acres located at 187 Porter Thornton Road from ag to RR rural residential and RE residential estate with the general development plan. Mr. Wisconsin, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-app for the property you see here outlined in yellow on October 20th of last year, zoned ag. Land use is agriculture, which it says in your staff report it's single-family residential. That is a typo. It is agriculture. Future land use is also agriculture. So what the applicants are proposing tonight is again, a Flume Amendment from ag to rural density residential, and if that is successful, they would like to rezone from ag to RE and RR, residential, estate, and rural residential, in order to divide the property into a maximum of 3 single-family residential lots. Looking on over to your second page, you will see the considerations for the future land use the future land use map, and the category descriptions for agriculture and rural density residential. And the applicant supplied a narrative below for your reference to satisfy the criteria for amending the future land use map. Looking on down to the site characteristics review, there's a variety of things, but I will note particularly the transportation infrastructure, that the property has frontage on Porter Thornton Road. It's a county-maintained rural roadway with 50 feet of right-of-way, but only 12 feet of pavement width. This does not meet the current minimum county standards for acceptance or development. Looking on over to the next page, we'll look at site design and compatibility review. Again, I will highlight just one item here under the surrounding architectural features, that the majority of homes have at least a 1-car attached garage or carport, with about half having at least a 2-car attached garage. Applicants proposed a minimum home size of 1,700 square feet for new residences, but did not include a requirement that they incorporate a garage or carport. Looking on down through, you'll see the area-specific policy review. Staff identified 4 items from the Plano focal point plan that was done just a few years ago. 4 items that continue on to page 4 of your staff report. I can go over any of those in greater detail that you want, but I will note that all of the identified items are up to the Planning Commission's determination for compliance with them. Looking on down to the bottom of page 4, you'll see the considerations for the development plan conditions. Number 1 deals with septic system approval. Number 2 deals with access, and that shall be coordinated with the Warren County Public Works Department. Number 3 states that new single-family residences shall have at least 1,700 square feet of heated and cooled living space. Number 4 says that the new residences shall be constructed of brick, stone, or concrete base siding, or vinyl or engineered wood siding. Foundations shall be brick, stone, or split face block. There shall be no exposed smooth face plain block above grade. Looking on over to the next page, we've got 5 through 7. Number 5 deals with building orientation. Number 6 deals with the preservation of existing vegetation. And number 7 deals with the preservation and mitigation of existing sinkholes. Looking on down to your Focus 2030 category review, there's a variety of items, 17 of which have been identified by staff, 9 of which are up to the Planning Commission's determination for compliance, and the other 8 are staff have deemed in compliance. I will go back to the points to consider on page 1, and that the Planning Commission should consider that the current agriculture flume designation was established in October 2018 in conjunction with the adoption of the Plano Focal Point Plan. Number 2, the Planning Commission should consider if the proposed Flume Amendment meets the criteria outlined in LU 1.1.4, the current flume designation of agriculture, coupled with the exceptions outlined in that, would allow rezoning of the property and subdivision of 1 additional lot without requiring a Flume Amendment. It is the 3rd proposed lot that has triggered the Flume Amendment request. If approved, the proposed zone change would be consistent with the Flume and RDR category. Number 3, again, references that Porter Thornton Road width of 12 feet. Number 4, the building foundations for the homes are mostly brick or stone, including the foundation for the current residence being brick. The applicants, again, are proposing to allow split face block potentially for those new homes. And lastly, the majority of homes in the area have at least a 1-car attached garage or carport, with about half having at least a 2-car attached garage. And the applicants did not supply a DPC referencing carports or garages. That's all I've got for the stat report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Zach. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Jones' report?
You know if the applicant has talked to the county road department? This road is quite dangerous. When I went out there, only 12 foot wide, you can't pass 2 cars, and you're wanting to put 3 driveways in a curve?
Yeah, I'll let the applicant speak to that. I will say that there is that DPC that requires them to coordinate with the Warren County Public Works Department, which is number, oop, I'm looking right over it, 2. So they will have to at some point if they have not already, but I'm not sure, and I'll let them speak more to that.
I was copied on an email from the applicant's surveying team to the Public Works Director, and he reviewed this and is not requiring any improvements to the road itself. Still requiring that any access be coordinated with their department, but no improvements to the road were required.
What she said.
12 foot's okay?
That is what he said, yes.
Because you can't pass 2 vehicles. I had to pull off almost into the ditch to let somebody pass me on that road. And that's pretty dangerous. And then right there in that curve. I hope the applicant will consider that.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Any other questions for Mr. Jones? Thank you, Zach. Is the applicant here or their representative would like to make some comments, please?
Hello.
Yes, sir. If you'd state your name and address, please.
Christopher Walden, 187 Porter Thornton Road.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Did you have a question about the width of the road?
Oh, yeah.
There's only 6 houses on the existing road right now.
I'm sorry?
There's only 6 houses on the existing road right now.
Right, and if you add 3 more and
Yeah.
only a 12-foot wide, you don't feel like that, or do you live out there?
Yes, I live there now.
And you don't feel like that would be a danger
I've
to
never
keep
met-
adding to it?
I've never met a car out there on the road.
Oh, well, see, I happened to Sunday afternoon.
Okay, well,
I spent my Easter out there trying to figure out where this was, and
oh,
it was
okay.
quite dangerous.
Oh, okay.
Would you consider doing anything to the roadway to make it wider or fill the ditches in or anything to where those 3 houses are going to be? From
There's-
Plano Road around to it?
There's non-existing ditches on the side right now. Are you sure you were on the right road?
It had that culvert down in there?
No. I'm not sure you're on the right road.
What it said when I went out there.
Christopher, I've got a couple questions. So one of the things that Zach brought up, would you be willing to put in the binding elements about garages?
Well, the existing house I live in now on the road doesn't have a garage, so, I mean, to me, it makes no sense to add it on. There's only 6 houses on the road, and you don't see any of the other houses, so.
Okay, and what about making the brick and stone?
Foundation.
The foundations, brick and stone, and not doing split face?
I'd be willing to consider it, but like I said, the existing house that I live in now on the road is vinyl.
I'm not talking about vinyl.
We're not talking about a suggestion. He's asking you, would you consider it?
Oh, the new house? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're not talking about your existing house.
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on building a brick house there.
Okay.
That's
so-
what we want to do.
So we
That's-
can we can go to brick and stone and on the foundations,
That's fine, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that was the purpose of subdividing it, to build a house behind
Okay.
the existing one we have now.
Amp your mic.
Mr. Walden, I'm looking at your development plan condition number 4.
Okay.
And in the second sentence, it will now read, "Foundations shall be of brick or stone." Is that agreeable?
That's fine, yes.
Thank you, sir.
But you're not willing to put anything in there about garages?
With the price of a home right now, I plan on building the home and then hopefully having enough to come back and build a garage at a later date. Yeah. A detached garage preferably, that you can work in as a workshop.
Any other questions for Mr. Walden? So, Mr. Walden, you agree to the,
The brick and stone,
Yes,
yes,
sir.
that's fine.
all right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or has opposition to this request? Thank you, Mr. Walden. So our first amendment is voted on by the full board and is to either approve or to reject the Flume Amendment.
Make a motion to deny the proposed future land use map amendment docket 2022-05 Flume. Based on the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed Flume amendment has not met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU-1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include a summary of the evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
So a motion to approve, a motion, go through it, Hamp, one more time. We get confused.
There's a motion to deny
Right.
on the floor, and it has not been seconded yet. If it gets a second, then we'll deal with that.
Second.
So now there's a motion and a second to deny the Flume amendment, and a yes vote will be in favor of denial. Yes equals deny, no means approve. If there is, well, let's deal with that motion, and then if there's a second motion, we'll talk about that at that time.
So Commissioners, a yes is to deny, a no is to approve. So, Mr. Peterson?
Sir. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane? Yes. Commissioner Starks?
No.
Commissioner Unseld?
No, sir.
Commissioner Vitale? No, sir. Commissioner Volkert?
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn?
No, sir.
Chair Warren?
No.
Motion failed.
There were 3 votes yes in favor of the motion to deny, and 5 votes no, so the motion to deny fails. The commission can now consider whether or not a motion should be made to approve the Flume amendment based on that denial vote. And if so, that motion carries.
So Commissioners, is there a motion to approve the future land use amendment and then a second?
Chair Warren, I make a motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment docket 2022-5 Flume. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU-1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion includes a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Peterson, so a yes vote is to approve, a no vote is not to approve.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld?
Sir.
Commissioner Vitale? Commissioner Volkert?
No, sir.
Commissioner Warren? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Chair Warren, yes. Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Drane?
No, sir.
So it passed.
So there were 5 votes cast in favor of the motion to approve, 3 votes opposed, so the motion to approve the Flume amendment passes.
Thank you. Our next vote is for the, to rezone this, and there will be four city commissioners and the 4 county commissioners who are here tonight, which will be Ms. Drane, Mr. Starks, Christian, Enda, Mary, and myself. So if we have a motion to approve the zoning map amendment.
Chair Warren, I make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2022-15Z County, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and actions items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale,
Sir.
Commissioner Volkert, Commissioner Drane, Chair Warren.
Yes, sir.
So there were 4 votes cast yes, 2 votes cast no. The 4 votes yes constitute the majority of the vote. So the recommendation for approval.
We'll go to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Thank you, Mr. Walden, for being here tonight. Our next item tonight is 2022-06 Flume, Bradley S. Kirby and BCTA Properties, LLC, care of Mike Hymer, have filed an application for a future land use map amendment on a tract of land containing approximately 6.3 acres located at 10141 Alvaton Road from rural village and low-density residential to rural village. All commissioners will be voting on this. If this is approved, they have filed an application, 2022-16Z County, to rezone a tract of land containing approximately 6.3 acres located at 10141 Alvaton Road from Ag to PUD, Plan Unit Development with a General Development Plan. Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-application meeting on January 19th for the property you just described, outlined in yellow, located at 10141 Alvaton Road. The current zoning of the property is agriculture, and the current use is also agriculture. The future land use designation is low-density residential, and there's a very small portion, if you look at this little point right here, part of that is currently designated as a rural village. As you mentioned, the first application before you this evening is a request to amend the future land use map so that its entire designation in its entirety would be rural village. On page 2, you'll see the reference to section LU 1.1.4 of the comprehensive plan, which outlines the procedures to amend the future land use map. And the applicants provided the narrative at the top of page 3 in order to address that criteria. Looking at the site characteristics review, we'll touch on the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks. I'll go through this in a little bit greater detail than we're used to, since the proposal is for a PUD, planned unit development, which allows the applicant to set their own development standards. So this is the proposed site layout here that I have on the screen. And the development will be served by internal travel ways, and in the written concept plan that you should have received in your package, you'll find that the setback along Alvaton Road is proposed to be 75 feet. The proposed setback along Scottsville Road is 25 feet. Staff has noted that very few buildings are located on the east side of Scottsville Road that front Scottsville Road between Mount Lebanon Road and the south end of Alvaton Road. The Alvaton Express building, which is north on the north end, so it'd be to the left, left side of the screen on the plan that's shown, is approximately 75 feet from Scottsville Road, and the southernmost building, which is located at 11097 Alvaton Road, is located approximately 150 feet from Scottsville Road. Little commercial parking exists on the west side of Alvaton Road,
The concept plan depicts all of the parking in front of the proposed commercial structure. Staff suggested that the applicants consider incorporating an increased setback along Scottsville Road and that they consider locating parking to the side or rear of any commercial structure in order to minimize the visual impact along the west side of the roadway. Neither of these items were addressed by the applicant. Looking at page 4, we'll touch on a few things in the site design and compatibility review. Looking at the surrounding density, the densities range from 0.19 to 3.18 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density when factoring in the entire property is 3.16 dwelling units per acre. If you exclude the commercial area, the proposed density would be around 3.51 dwelling units per acre. Looking at the surrounding architectural features, staff has noted that minimum home sizes for existing and approved residential developments in the vicinity include 1,600 square feet for Breckenridge, 2,200 square feet for Bonita Meadows, and then 1,800 square feet for a recent zone change on Scottsville Road. That's this teal property here on the density map. The proposed home size in the development plan conditions is 1,030 square feet. Each residence will have at least a one-car attached garage. Under building materials, staff has noted for the residential portion of the development that there is no limit on the amount of vinyl that can be utilized, and that the material requirements for the developments in the vicinity do not incorporate a high percentage of vinyl. On page 5, proposed open space. The applicants have agreed that there would be at least 40% open space within the development. There are no residential amenities required in the development plan conditions and the written narrative, and there are none depicted on the graphic concept plan. Looking at the area-specific policy review, this property is located within the boundary of the Scottsville Road corridor study. I'll touch on a few of these recommendations. The first is that a requirement that all development visible from Scottsville Road be designed in a way to appear to face Scottsville Road, regardless of the location of the driveway access and parking. The applicants did not commit to building orientation in their development plan conditions or concept plan, except that the commercial building shall face Alvaton Road. The applicants did commit to screen development along Scottsville Road with 6 evergreen trees and 3 deciduous trees per 100 linear feet, and to preserve the existing tree line along the northwestern, southwestern, and southeastern property lines. So the Planning Commission should determine if these commitments comply with the intent of this recommendation. Jumping down to number 5, recommendation that there be a building material requirement for both residential and non-residential development for facades facing Scottsville Road and possibly all roadways. The development plan conditions require that commercial buildings be constructed with 100% brick, EIFS, stone masonry, or other cementitious material, excluding plain and split face block. And the development plan conditions also require that single-family homes be constructed of vinyl or brick, EIFS, stone masonry, or other cementitious material. Plain and split face block shall be prohibited and foundations will be brick. There is no limit on the amount of vinyl that can be utilized for the single-family homes, and the Planning Commission should determine compliance with this recommendation. Looking at page 6, number 10, that deals with the open space requirements. Again, there's no commitment to provide any type of formal residential amenities, nor are there any amenities depicted on the concept plan. Looking at the development plan conditions, number 1 looks at utility placement. 2 limits the use of the property to single-family detached homes on the same lot, not to exceed 20 total dwelling units, as well as commercial uses permitted in general business, with a maximum of 5,000 square feet of commercial development, and commercial uses will be limited to a total of 10% of the overall development. 3 looks at access. 4 addresses building orientation along Alvaton Road. 5 addresses screening of roof-level mechanical equipment. 6, 7, and 8 outline building materials and home size. 9 and 10 address mailboxes and site lighting. 11 limits building height to 2 stories. 12 includes restrictions on uses that may otherwise be allowed in general business. 13 prohibits drive-through windows or outdoor speakers. 14 addresses tree preservation. 15 looks at signage. 16 sinkholes. 17 looks at donation of salvageable materials before the existing residence on the property is demolished. And number 18 addresses the screening requirement along Scottsville Road. In the Focus 2030 category review, the staff evaluated 25 items. We found that 7 of those items were in compliance, 2 are out of compliance, and then there are 16 that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. The first being LU 1.1.1 and 1.1.2, which look at the future land use map. LU 1.1.3 addresses compatibility. LU 2 and 2.1 look at quality of development and character preservation. LU 2.1.1 deals with open space. LU 2.8 references the recommendations in the Scottsville Road Corridor Study. LU 2.9 deals with, and also NCR 2.4 and NCR 2.4.3 look at protection of Alvaton's rural village character. NCR 2.4.1 looks at premature development pressure on the countryside. The only 2 out of compliance were NCR 2.5 and 2.5.3. There is an existing historic home on the property that is not proposed to be incorporated into the development. It would be demolished, but again, in the development plan conditions, they did agree to donate salvageable materials prior to demolition. Next, HN 1 and 1.3, which look at character and pattern of development. On page 9, HN 2.1 and HN 4, which look at housing location suitability and housing options. And then last, ED-1, which looks at diversification of the local economy. I'll jump back to page 1 and look at our points to consider. The first is that the Planning Commission should consider if the expansion of the rural village future land use designation beyond its current boundary to allow additional commercial uses and the introduction of a multifamily use in this location is compatible with the area and the Alvaton community. Second, the material requirements for existing developments in the area do not the material requirements for existing developments outlined in the report do not incorporate a high percentage of vinyl. Under the current proposal, there is no limit on the amount of vinyl that can be used for residential structures. Third, the proposed minimum home size is 1,030 square feet, which is less than the minimum home size for any of the nearby developments. On page 2, again looking at those bike ped facilities and open space, lack of residential amenities. Below that, point to consider that the current structures located between Alvaton Road and Scottsville Road in the area of the proposed development are at least 75 feet from the property line common with the Scottsville Road right-of-way, and that the proposed building setback along Scottsville Road is 25 feet. Next, very little commercial parking exists on the west side of Alvaton Road, and the applicants are proposing to locate parking for commercial uses in front of the building. And then last, staff has noted that roughly 4 acres of the property is comprised of farmland of statewide importance. That is all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Hurd?
Rachel, is it fair to say that you have some reservations on a few of the things in this proposal?
I would say it's fair to say that we offered suggestions in our correspondence with the applicants, and the points to consider reflect things that we felt were left unaddressed.
Thank you, Mr. Volkert. Any other questions for Ms. Hurd?
Rachel, what's the difference in the rural village? Because I thought that was like a low density, and they decided to do a PUD instead. Is it so they could have a lot more residential?
I guess the rural village designation, that's part of the future land use map. The PUD is the zoning that they're requesting. There's a description in your staff report for the rural village category. That is on page 2. Thanks. And I'll read that if that's helpful. It says that the rural village land use designation is intended to provide for the continued vitality of the existing commercial and residential mixed-use areas found in the smaller rural agricultural centers throughout Warren County. The rural village brings a sense of community and identification to the surrounding rural areas with an emphasis on providing essential goods and services to rural residents but is not intended as an employment designation for urban residents. Neighborhood scale commercial uses are encouraged as pockets of mixed-use development. Commercial uses should be limited in size and scale, less than 10,000 square feet, and only allow uses permitted in the zones outlined in the future land use category table. When proposed as part of a mixed-use development, commercial components should only comprise 10% of any such development. Standalone commercial development should not exceed more than 25% of any contiguous area designated as rural village, and limited moderate density multifamily uses may be appropriate in some areas if limited in size and scale. Compatibility should be assessed by applying the policies in LE 1.1.3 in conjunction with the development plan and the specific policies found in any type of focal point plan or corridor study. And again, this is in the Scottsville Road corridor study. The PUD zoning designation, they're requesting that because they're proposing multiple single unit structures on the same parcel of land, and that's the only way they can accommodate that style of development is through that PUD zone.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, any other questions for Ms. Hurt? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Is the applicant here or their representative? Okay.
Good afternoon. Mike Hymer, 2681 Dyford Road, Alvaton, Kentucky.
Tell truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Hymer.
Mike, I like your proposal.
Yeah.
I would like to see a couple things, the square footage and maybe some limitation on the vinyl. Would that be something you'd be willing to adjust some?
Yeah, we did these same ones, you know, on Scottsville Road, and of course I'm trying, as you know, I've done a lot of development and building lately. I'm trying to do affordable housing.
I understand.
To give you an example, those houses on Scottsville Road a year and a half ago, this same floor plan came in at $78,000 a piece. So these are the same floor plan and they're coming in at $141,000 a piece. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing brick on the office retail space, and we're trying to do vinyl, you know, on the houses to try to keep the cost down. Most of the houses, as you can see, won't really be seen from the road. They're kind of back in behind that, all that area that's right there is woods, you know, so we really won't really see the houses on them. But the 1,000 square foot is 2 bedroom, 2 full baths, and a garage. I put garages on all mine. That keeps everybody's junk inside the garage most of the time instead of outside to go. So I like garages on them, but they big demand. I mean, we're 100% full.
Mr. Hymer, to answer Mr. Volkert's question, are you willing to consider a change in the building materials from vinyl to a percentage of modern masonry materials?
Right.
To brick, yeah.
I mean, and I'd probably be okay with just the frontage, just the fronts of the houses.
Yeah.
And I understand the affordability and what you're trying to do, and I get that. But
what if, would you be okay with doing the only a couple of the first 2 houses are the only ones that's going to be seen from the road, you know, behind the storage building? Would it be okay to do those 2 houses in completely brick and do the vinyl on the rest of them? You know, we've done that on some of them before, just to mix them up. The office buildings will all be brick, and then the 2 front houses all brick. You know, I mean, I know, you know, everybody's leaning more toward brick, but you know, I'll build $400,000 houses with vinyl on them. You know, all vinyl, so it's not really a cheap product now. But I mean, that would be. Would you have a problem with that? We do the first 2 houses in the commercial. I mean, if we did all brick, it's
no, I don't want you to do all brick.
No.
I get that. I'm not looking for all brick. I'm asking, would you consider just doing the fronts of the houses brick?
Yeah, I'd be okay.
I mean, it's not a ton of brick, but it would give it a little nice look.
Right. Yeah, I'd be okay with doing the front of them
brick,
okay with that? And then doing vinyl on the back and the side.
Yeah.
Inside.
Yeah.
And then still do all brick on the office retail.
Yes, sir.
Inside.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that. Not real expensive, but.
Essence from an aesthetic standpoint.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you doing any of the open space usable, or is it just gonna be sinkholes and drainage? Is it any of it gonna be usable for families or anything?
It is. We have looked at possibly doing a sidewalk around the outside of the entire property, where they can do, walking or walk their dog around it and still use the green space for, everybody now has animals, seems like dogs inside. So the green space would be good for that. So rather than working in the grass, I've thought about doing a sidewalk around the outside perimeter of the property, yeah.
Okay.
Be okay to put that in the binding elements?
Yeah, it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you all recite that again as to the sidewalks show?
Encompass the perimeter of the,
Probably, yeah.
Are there sidewalks to be constructed on the streets?
I don't know if they have to in a PUD, do they?
No, just.
Open area.
We could do, we could do, you talking about on the frontage on it, you talking about?
No, I'm not making the suggestion.
Okay, I'm gonna ask,
I'm
okay, yeah.
saying, I'm saying, I mean, from what I heard you say, I think it'd be nice to have a sidewalk around the perimeter to
Yeah.
give the residents, an area to walk and not to walk in grass.
Let me ask my engineer on the front of that. Rodney, is it responsible to do a sidewalk across the front? I mean, it's gully down there pretty good.
Okay, so,
Your name and address, please,
yes,
sir.
Rodney McGahee, 2053 Dyford Road.
Swear to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So, there's a large area here that is low, okay? And this is all wooded, and plants to stay wood, and there's a large area here that's low. The lowest area on this side is right along the property line. So, for the walking path or whatever he's planning to do, would it be okay if it meandered through this area instead of encompassing the entire property? Because that's the lowest part of the.
Follow the high ground,
Does
yeah.
that make sense,
Yeah.
Mr. Volk?
Yeah, I would be fine with, I
Yeah,
just think it's
as
a
long
nice
as it-
amenity for the residents to have somewhere to walk.
As long as it loops.
Yeah, as long as it loops.
And then we could bring it back through here, and then bring it around this way. We could definitely make it come along this side. But over here, that happens to be the low area, in a regional drainage area there, so.
So we'll just simply say that sidewalks will be constructed throughout the development.
What are you gonna build, make them out of? Are you gonna make them out of? Are you gonna make them out of like?
I would say within the perimeter of the,
Concrete, I guess, yeah.
So sidewalks,
Behind the homes.
Huh?
Behind the homes, would that work?
Yeah, they will be behind the homes, yeah, because the road and stuff's in the front, yeah. Okay.
Can you let us know where approximately you're gonna put the monument sign? Where is that going to be?
It's designated on this side of the entrance right there.
Yeah. And I think the
up
mailboxes
here?
are internal into.
Yes. Yeah, so on the right of the entrance as you were going out. And then the mailboxes are proposed at this location here.
Rodney, let me ask another question. Setbacks, are we 25 feet off of Scottsville Road?
We, this dash line is the 25-foot setback off of the right-of-way for Scottsville Road.
Right away.
The center line is way out here. One of the things that we talked about early on with the staff was the need for, along Old Scottsville Road, having everything pushed back because all the residences are back. And we committed to that up front here,
Okay.
which pushed our building back. And given the low area behind the proposed commercial building, the parking really needs, in order to make it work, really needs to go up front. I will say on that, if you look at the general area around the Alvaton store, the Old Country store, the garage, the barber shop, they all have parking along Old Scottsville Road there. So we feel like this is very compatible with what is at the hub of Alvaton there. And then down on this side, when you're talking about Scottsville Road, the setback there, if we had committed to what the staff was asking for, you wouldn't be able to have connection to this area because of the way the existing topography is. If you look at it on a topo map, of course, this area is low and this area is low, and this is the ridge line that comes back and around. That's why it's shaped the way it is based on the existing lay of the land and trying not to disturb any more vegetation than possible, or than necessary, rather.
So the two commercial buildings are going to be there in the front,
There's one commercial building proposed right here
right?
to be less than 5,000 square feet. I believe the requirement is less than 10,000, and I believe the one we have shown on there, those dimensions are 4,500, so it's below 5,000
And where would the parking be for that?
up front here.
The parking's going to be on the roadway and not behind it?
It's
You would turn in.
in a
and then go
private
into- yeah.
parking lot there off, the Alvaton Road is out here. So you turn into the private development and then turn into a parking lot for those uses, those commercial uses.
Driving down Alvaton Road, you're going to see a parking lot, and then you're going to see a brick building.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's going to face Alvaton.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're not going to have any outdoor storage?
No, ma'am.
No kind of outdoor storage for that commercial?
I don't believe it's permitted, is it, Rachel?
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Prohibit that that was prohibited.
Right, yeah. So, thank you.
Ronnie, how much acreage do we have up front on the, as we're looking at it this way on the right side before you get to the house, first
So,
house?
There is, entire property is 6.3 acres.
You talking about from the first house?
Well, I'm just talking about, like, yeah, where the writing in red and black are right there.
Right.
How much area is that right there?
Yeah.
Just rough.
Right, let me,
.63. You've got it on the
Acre or
exhibit.
something,
do I have
yeah.
it on there?
Yeah.
I can't read.
0.63. Oh, no, that's the commercial area. Is that what you're asking?
No.
0.63
I'm on
is
the
the
other side.
commercial.
Right side.
I'm on the other side.
So.
Looks like where you have the tree line.
Right, looking at probably.
My question is, does that land lay pretty good?
It's low,
and down
especially
here.
up next to where New Cut Road comes in. There's a low area there. I mean, it's not terrible, but
Okay.
it drops off quite a bit. There's,
Well, the reason I ask is I mean, I'd love to see another amenity for the residents. Is there any way in that area to put something like a dog run? I mean, it's just a chain fence around.
Yeah.
so you just be talking about fencing in
Yeah,
a portion of
and
this
there-
for a
Portion,
dog
not
It's-
all of
park
it.
or
I
something
mean,
like that.
yeah, is it possible? I mean, it's pretty low, it goes way down, it's probably, part of it's 15, 20 foot below the road level, I guess, but you could, for a fence and a dog, I guess it'd be okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't go
I'm
down.
just looking for something.
Yeah. Kids or whatever you want to put
Yep.
in there.
Lock the kids in, whatever. Nice, Mike.
Yeah. But, it's possible, I think, to use it for that, wouldn't it?
We can do that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Rodney, are there any flooding areas, any flooding issues or anything with this property?
No, there are two working sinkholes on both sides of the development there, and we've not noticed any flooding in that area. Now that doesn't mean that I mean, they're designed to hold water and then to drain, and anything that we push water to, we'll make sure is protected. Number one, if we continue to use it, which we will in this case. So we'll be required to protect that in accordance with the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations.
Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant or the representative here tonight? Yeah. Fence?
Dog.
Want to reach
Yeah,
an
we
agreement
could,
to put the dog, okay, and then so that brings to 3 amendments, let me know when you're ready to recite those. Is there any opposition?
Site, we want to do the opposition, or we
Well, I
want
was
to take their amendments first and then,
That's obviously,
Yeah.
that's fine, yeah. So, Mr. Hymer, here's what I heard that you all have agreed to do. The first one is in Development Plan Condition Number 7, and you agreed that a new second sentence of that paragraph to read, "The front facade of each residential structure shall be constructed of brick."
Great. Yes, I agree to that.
The second one I've put, said is going to be a new sentence in DPC number 11, and it will state that sidewalks will be constructed behind the homes located in the development.
For a walking trail, I guess, it's for the purpose of it, yep.
And then the third one we'll put in the same paragraph 11, that the developer will construct a
Dog park.
a fenced dog park to be used by the residents of the development.
Yep, yes, I agree to that, yep.
And you speak on behalf of Mr. Bradley Kirby?
Yes, I do.
thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
In our audience tonight, is there any questions or oppositions to this request? Okay. So our first vote will be to amend the future land use map amendment. And then if that approves, then we'll change the zoning map amendment. And just as a reminder, all commissioners that are here tonight will be voting on the Flume.
I make a motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment, docket number 2022-06- Based on the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU-4.1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include a summary of the evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Ladies first.
I was first.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Drane, Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert. Yes, sir. Commissioner Blackburn. Yes, sir. Chair Warren.
So the motion is approved, and would call for a motion for the zoning map amendment, please.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with condition upon the general development plan document number 2022-16Z-CO. Based on the testimony and documents presented in the public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in staff. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. I further request this motion include a summary of evidence, testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Volkert.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Drane. Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld. Commissioner Vitale.
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. The motion is approved and will go to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Thank you all for your time. Our next item tonight is 2022-07. Flume Hunter Morrow has filed an application for a future land use map amendment on a tract of land containing approximately 3/4 of an acre located at 1201 Cabell Drive from low-density residential to moderate-density residential. All board members will be voting on this, and if this is approved, 2022-17ZBG, Hunter Morrow has filed an application to rezone a tract of land containing approximately 3/4 of an acre located at 1201 Cabell Drive from RM2 two-family residential to RS1D single-family residential with a general development plan.
Thank you, Chair Warren. Got a pre-app on January 20th of this year for the property you see outlined in yellow. That zoning is RM2. Existing land use is single-family residential. And that future land use is low-density residential. And again, they are proposing to amend the flume for that 0.34 acres from low-density to moderate-density residential. And if that is successful, to rezone the property from RM2 to RS1D single-family residential to divide the property into a maximum of 2 single-family residential lots, as you see on your exhibit here before you. Looking on over to page 2, you'll see the descriptions for each future land use map category, and then the considerations for amending the future land use map, of which the applicants applied or supplied a narrative that you have there at the bottom for your reference. Looking on down to site characteristics review, I will go over a few things in the lot layout, sizes and setbacks. I will call out that the lot proposed to remain is roughly 9,200 square feet, with the new building lot proposed to be roughly 5,500 square feet. Both lots adhering to that RS1D standard. Lot sizes within 1/10 of the mile on the west side of Cabell range from roughly 9,400 square feet to roughly 2,100 square feet, with a median lot size of roughly 1,600 square feet and an average lot size of also roughly 1,600 square feet. Within 1/10 mile on the east side, it ranges from 5,000 square feet to roughly 1,400 square feet, with a median of roughly 6,600 square feet and an average of also roughly 6,600 square feet. The Planning Commission should consider if the proposed lot sizes are compatible with the lots in the surrounding area, including the lot sizes on the west side of Cabell Drive. Looking on over to page 2, you've got the rest of the considerations for the site characteristics, but looking on down to the site design and compatibility, surrounding density, we'll note that for that 1/10 of a mile on the west side of Cabell Drive, densities range from 2.05 to 5.6 dwelling units per acre, with a median of 2.71 and an average density of 2.94. And then if you flip that over to the east side, they range from 5.48 to 8.62 dwelling units per acre, with a median of 6.6 dwelling units per acre and an average of 6.81. The proposed density before you tonight is 5.89 dwelling units per acre. And then looking on down towards the open space, that's also called out as points to consider, but I'll reiterate it here. The RS1D zone requires 40% open space. The RS1A zone, which lots west of the proposed development are zoned, requires 50% open space, and the Planning Commission should determine if a reduction in open space for the proposed lot is appropriate in this area. Looking on over to the next page, we've got our development plan conditions, which there are 5. Number 1, any new residence shall have at least 1,050 square feet of heated and cooled living spaces, and any new residence on the property shall have a maximum building height of 1.5 stories. Number 2 says that each residence shall have a 1-car garage. Number 3 requires that exteriors of any new residence shall not include metal, wood, excluding engineered wood siding, concrete block, or asphalt siding. Building foundations shall not include plain or split face block. Number 4 requires that any new residence on the westernmost lot fronting Temple Way shall have a front facade oriented towards that street, and that any new residence constructed on the lot fronting Cabell shall face Cabell Drive. And then lastly, access to the property shall be coordinated with and approved by the Bowling Green Public Works Department. Looking on over to your Focus 2030 category review, I'm not going to go any of those in great detail. I will note there's 12 items that staff identified, 11 of which are up to Planning Commission determination, but they're mostly reiterated in our points to consider, so we'll just look at them there on page 1. Starting with Flume Amendment, the applicant is proposing to amend the flume from that low density residential to moderate density residential, as the proposed residential density of 5.89 dwelling units per acre exceeds the maximum allowable density of 4.5 that is identified for the low density residential flume category. Number 2 deals with lot size. The proposed development includes 2 lots, again with proposed sizes of 9,200 and 5,500 square feet roughly. Lot sizes within that 1/10 of a mile, again, are roughly 9,400 to 2,100 square feet, with a median lot size of roughly 1,600 square feet and an average lot size of the same. Building orientation, the new home is proposed to face Temple Way. There are currently no homes on lots with frontage on Temple Way that face Temple Way. Existing homes have frontage on Temple Way, are located on corner lots and face Cabell Drive and Nom Drive. Open space, again, the maximum allowable lot coverage in the RS1D zone is 75%. I think I misspoke on that earlier. So that means a minimum of 25% of each property will remain as open space. A minimum of 40 to 50% open space per lot is currently required for the lots west of Cabell Drive. And that 40% number that I said earlier is for the RM2 zone. So 25% in RS1D and 40% in RM2, 50% in RS1A. So that's all I've got for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Zach. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Jones?
Say that one more time. RS1D.
Yes, so the maximum allowable lot coverage in RS1D is 75%, in RM2 is 60%, and in RS1A is 50%. And so those minimum open spaces in each of those zones is that, but the inverse. Any
other questions, commissioners? Thank you very much, Zach. Is the applicant here or one of the representatives? Yes, sir, if you'd please come to the microphone. Name and address. And
Hunter Morrow, 1201 Cabell Drive.
Mr. Morrow, you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Morrow?
It doesn't address it, but I mean, are you planning on building this as a vinyl house?
I would like to do brick.
Would you mind if we put in there that it'd be a brick house?
Sure.
Okay.
These lots look really small. How big of a house do you plan to put, and how much yard are you gonna have left? Are you gonna have any yard left?
I'll have 25 feet in the front. That's the setback.
Okay.
So I plan on, I'd like to fill most of it because you want to maximize your area that we can build. But I would say a minimum of 1,500 square feet for the house.
Okay. This looks like they're gonna be right on top of each
Right,
other.
well,
I hope they're friends.
I'm sorry?
I hope they're gonna be friends.
We
'cause
are.
They're gonna be
We
right
are.
on top.
We are. No, I know it looks, from the drawing, it looks pretty small, but when you get out there, there's room. There's room. Minimum.
You mind if we make that 1,500?
That's fine. That's fine.
Are your development plan conditions say 1,000?
Well, we were just, Rachel helped me write them and.
No, that's fine.
We were just.
We're
yeah,
not questioning you. We just.
No, it's fine. We were just trying to have,
So let's change that to 1,500 square feet and a brick.
Number 3.
CC number 1 then will change in the first sentence, the number 1,050 square feet to 1,500 square feet.
That'd be fine.
And then we'll add a sentence to that paragraph number 1 that says, any new residential structure shall have a brick exterior.
Will this only apply to the new home proposed on lot 10-1, or if the existing home that's already there were replaced. Were those questions only in reference to the new house? Not if the current home were replaced. I think it's vinyl now.
Yes,
correct?
it is. The current home is, I thought we were just talking about the new.
The new one.
That's all we're
Okay.
talking about.
I just
Okay,
wanted to
that's-
make sure.
That's what I understood.
Okay.
Right.
So the phrase "any new residence" is,
Free.
why don't we say on lot, since if your house happened to burn down.
Right.
So any new resident on lot, what is that, lot what? All of that, Mr. Morrow, is agreeable to you?
Yes, sir. So just to be clear, we are only talking about the new.
Home.
So hypothetically, if the current residence were to burn, I'm not obligated to do brick and all. Okay. Just want to verify. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Any other questions for Mr. Morrow?
Does the number 3 say any new residents? Exteriors of any new residence, so if it does burn, wouldn't that be a new residence?
Not on that lot.
We clarified it on the lot, the new lot.
Sandy, you're right. It should, in paragraph 3, should also have that lot 10-1
Okay.
inserted.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I understood that. Thank you.
Good eye.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that has a question or opposition to this request? Hearing none, would call for the first amendment is the Flume Amendment, and all commissioners will vote on this, and then if approved, we will go to the zoning map amendment.
I make a motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment, docket number 2022-07 Flume. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed Flume Amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU-1.4. I'm sorry, .1.4. I'm having trouble with that tonight. In the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that the motion include a summary of the evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing, including the changes made.
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Drane, Commissioner Starks, Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale,
Sir.
Commissioner Volkert, Commissioner Blackburn, Chair Warren.
Yes, sir. We call for a motion, please, on the zoning map amendment.
I make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2022-17-Z-PG. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale,
Sir.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Drane, Chair Warren.
Sir, the motion is approved and goes to the Bowling Green City Commission. Our next item tonight is 2022-08 Flume, Oliver and Hansborough Development Partners, LLC, care of Ben Hansborough. It filed an application for a future land use amendment on a tract of land containing approximately 16.4 acres located 0 New Cut Road, approximately 4.4 0.46 miles from H.E. Johnson Road from agriculture to low-density residential. All board members will be voting on this. If this is approved, 2022-18Z County, Oliver and Hansborough Development Partners, LLC, care of Ben Hansborough, have filed an application to rezone a tract of land containing approximately 16.47 acres located 0 New Cut Road, approximately 4.46 miles from H.E. Johnson Road from Ag to RE Residential Estate with a general development plan. Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-application meeting on December 1st for the property you just described, located on New Cut Road. Current zoning is agriculture with a use of agriculture and future land use designation also being agriculture. On page 2, you'll see the same criteria we've seen with other applications this evening, LU 1.1.4, which outlines the procedures to amend the future land use map. Touch on a couple of things in the site characteristics review. First, looking at natural features. If I go back to the aerial view, you'll see that there is a thick line of trees located along the eastern property line. We've also noted that there are sinkholes in the area, and a portion of a wetland may also be present on the property. The development plan conditions require that the developer make all reasonable efforts to maintain healthy and mature trees not existing within building envelopes, areas of utility placement, roadways, or driveways. Roughly 5 acres of the property contains mature trees. The proposed building envelopes, utility placement, roadway, and driveway installation will likely impact the majority of the currently wooded area and likely result in loss of tree canopy. The applicants did agree to plant 2 trees per lot in Development Plan Condition 7. We have noted under prime farmland that the majority of the property contains soil types classified as prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. Looking at the surrounding density in the area, within a quarter of a mile, densities range from 0 to 2.47 dwelling units per acre, with an average of 0.27 and median of 0.06 dwelling units per acre. And within a half mile, densities range from 0 to 2.47, with an average of 0.21 and median density of 0.05 dwelling units per acre. The Planning Commission, this should look familiar to some of you. You recommended approval of a 25-lot subdivision with a density of 0.89 dwelling units per acre on the south side of New Cut Road at your meeting on March the 3rd. And the proposed density for this development is 0.85 dwelling units per acre. The Planning Commission should determine if the increase in density given the median densities for existing properties range from 0.05 to 0.06. Again, those are just existing properties. Looking at landscaping and screening on page 4, the development plan conditions do require that side and rear facades of any homes on lots immediately adjacent to New Cut Road be screened with a landscape buffer containing no less than 6 evergreen trees and 3 deciduous trees per 100 linear feet. This requirement would only be applicable to property lines fronting New Cut Road. Looking at the building orientation and setbacks, along New Cut Road, homes are oriented to face the road, and staff recommends that new homes also face New Cut Road or be screened. The applicants did agree to a screening requirement that I just outlined, but staff has noted that very few homes exist on the north side of New Cut Road in this section of New Cut Road, and the most proximate home to New Cut Road, which is located at 1708 New Cut Road, has a front yard setback of roughly 80 feet. Looking at the development plan conditions, number 1 limits the development to 14 lots. Number 2 sets a minimum home size of 1,800 square feet. 3 requires a 2-car attached garage. 4 limits building height to 2 stories. 5 outlines building materials. 6 looks at utility placement. 7 looks at preservation of existing vegetation and requires 2 trees to be planted per lot. 8 requires that the subdivision be served by internal streets and that the entrance to the development be aligned with the entrance to any development across New Cut Road and along the property's easternmost property line. and the development shall include stub streets to the property to the north. Number 9 includes a screening requirement that I mentioned earlier for side and rear facades along New Cut Road. 10 addresses sinkholes and wetlands on the property. 11 includes considerations for on-site septic systems. And 12 converts some of the development plan conditions to private restrictions once a plat is recorded. Looking at the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 19 items and found 6 of those to be in compliance. There are 13 that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. The first, LU 1.1.1 and 1.1.2, which look at the future land use map. LU 1.1.3, which deals with compatibility. LU 2 and 2.1, which look at quality of development and character and pattern of development in the area. LU 2.1.1, which looks at open space. LU 2.1.4, PR 1.7, and NCR 1.1.6, which address preservation of existing tree canopy. And then on page 6, NCR 2.4, which deals with the rural and agricultural landscape and whether or not the proposed development will preserve and enhance this. NCR 2.4.1, the proposed subdivision is located in an area where Warren Rural Electric has expressed limited electrical capacity, and that any further development beyond this proposal will require upgrades to existing infrastructure. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development will result in increased development pressure on the countryside. And HN 2.1 and HN 4, which look at suitability of the proposed housing type and diversification of housing options. Jump back to page 1 and look at our points to consider. The first deals with preservation of the tree canopy and the impact of the development on the existing tree canopy. The second looks at the proposed density. Third looks at building setbacks, screening of side and rear facades along New Cut Road. And then 4 just notes that roughly 95% of the property is designated as farmland of statewide importance. One thing I meant to mention when I was going through the development plan conditions, let me jump back. Again, that development I had referenced earlier from the March meeting, the proposed development plan conditions are almost identical to those that were approved for the development across the street. I believe that is all I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Excuse me, commissioners, any questions, comments?
Is there going to be a sidewalk in there?
Commissioner Clark, there's not a requirement for sidewalks in this particular zone.
Okay, I didn't know if the
I
applicant...
don't believe they're planning to install sidewalks.
Okay.
They didn't in the other.
No, sir.
In the other development, the houses could be 100% vinyl.
No, the vinyl is limited to soffits or gables only. Yeah, I've got those conditions right here. Those were amended on the floor of the meeting, actually.
They're both the same.
Yeah.
That was
One sentence says vinyl siding is permitted, and then the next sentence says only for soffits. I think you all asked them to take the vinyl siding out of the first sentence so that only the second sentence spoke to vinyl. Isn't that right? Isn't that what we did?
March 3rd.
Yeah, and this, I've got those conditions here, and the wording is identical.
Thank you, Mr. Volkert. Commissioners, any other questions for Ms. Hurt? Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Is the developer or their representative here?
Good evening, Chris Davenport, 921 College, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, Chris.
I think the only thing I would add is this is actually the third application. There's another development that we had approved. It is on H.E. Johnson Road. So it is somewhere, that's the wrong thing. It's somewhere to the bottom of this map. I won't get the exact parcel right, and maybe Rachel, but it's somewhere down here. I thought it was on H.E. Johnson. Okay, it's somewhere, it's in the vicinity. So as I told you at the last hearing, these were bought at auction. The developers have some commonality. They're not identical. Mr. Oliver's involved in some, Mr. Hansborough's involved in some. So all the DPCs are the same for all intents and purposes. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The reason we're here tonight, the other two properties were south of the Flume line. This property happens to be there in the green, so it requires the Flume as well.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Davenport?
Are they going to put any sidewalks or any street lights or anything in there like a normal subdivision, or are they just going to do the driveways?
In this class, it's not required, and
no, but I'm just asking.
They don't intend to, Commissioner Clark.
They do not.
When we were here on the last, you may recall, Mr. Oliver agreed to a DPC that said if installed, street lights would be uniform. And we did put that in the DPC, as I recall. And as he indicated, they don't intend to do that. He's happy to do that same DPCs, that if they do install them, they would be uniform. But given the area, at least, you know, he told me last time that not everyone likes street walks in the country, or street lights in the country. And it's a rather limited number of lots, so.
Chris, there's no issues with the wetlands, is it? The areas that's identified as wetlands?
I don't think so. I mean, I would let staff, usually they tell me if they want something more from a remediation standpoint. I don't think that was really an issue here. I recall Rachel mentioned, I think in her staff report, there may be some areas that have to be addressed, but.
Yeah, and I think the development plan conditions, the way they're worded, that's pretty common for other applications that have involved similar situations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone in the audience that has questions or has opposition to this request? Okay, hearing none, our first motion would be voted on by all commissioners, would be the future land use map amendment, and then if approved, then the zoning map amendment.
Make the motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment, docket number 2022-08 Flume. Based on the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU 114 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Blackburn? Yes, sir. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane? Yes. Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Yes, Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. We could have a motion for the zoning map amendment, please.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2022-18-Z-County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by the compliance with the objectives and the action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Drane? Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. The motion approved and goes to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Our next item tonight is 2022-09 Flume WCM Land LLC, care of Chris McGee has filed an application for a future land use map amendment on tracts of land containing approximately 21.3 acres located at 0 Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, 0 Ayers Road, and 0 Porter Pike, approximately 8/10 of a mile from Three Forks Flat Rock Road from agriculture to rural density residential. If this Flume Amendment is approved, 2022-19 Z County, WCM Land LLC, care of Chris McGee, has filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 21.3 acres located 0 Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, 0 Ayers Road, and 0 Porter Pike, approximately 8/10 of a mile from Three Forks Flat Rock Road from agriculture to RE residential estate. Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-application meeting on February 2nd for the properties outlined in yellow. The current zoning is agriculture with a current use of agriculture. And the future land use map is also agriculture. The reference to amend the future land use map, or the criteria required to amend the future land use map, is on page 2. We've seen that with all of the other previous applications this evening, so that is there for your reference. We will touch on a few things in the site characteristics review. This is the proposed lot layout here. Setbacks will adhere to the RE standards set forth in the zoning ordinance, except for the front yard setback, which is proposed to be 50 feet. Proposed lot sizes for 6 of the proposed lots are around 1 acre. 2 lots are between 2 and 3 acres, with 1 of the proposed lots at 10 acres. There are currently no homes fronting Ayers Road on the southeastern side. Front yard setbacks along Porter Pike are roughly 150 feet and 45 to 65 feet for homes along Smiths Grove Scottsville Road. The average lot sizes within a quarter of a mile and half mile are 11.8 and 11.9 acres respectively, and they are agricultural in character. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal, including the proposed lot sizes and front setbacks, are compatible in this location. Looking at water adequacy, the properties are served by Warren County Water District and have adequate water flow to meet the minimum fire protection requirements along Porter Pike and Smiths Grove Scottsville Road. There is not adequate water along Ayers Road, and if the proposal is approved, additional fire hydrants will be required to be installed, and placement will need to be coordinated with Warren County Water District. Looking at the site design and compatibility review, touching on the density. Within a quarter of a mile, densities range from 0 to 2.74 dwelling units per acre, with a median of 0.03 dwelling units per acre and an average density of 0.47 dwelling units per acre. Within a within a half mile, densities range from 0 to 2.74 dwelling units per acre, with a median density of 0.1 and an average of 0.42. The proposed density for this development is 0.42 dwelling units per acre. Proposed Lot 2, shown on the preliminary development plan, that's this lot here. So proposed Lot 2 can be subdivided by right under the current ag zoning designation. Staff suggested that this area be excluded from the proposal, but the applicant indicated to staff that they would like to include it for the purposes of the overall density calculation for the development. If excluded, the proposed density for the remaining lots is 0.71 dwelling units per acre, which is over 23 times the median density within a quarter of a mile and over 7 times the median density within a half mile. On page 4, we will touch on the building materials. Just over 50% of homes in the area have vinyl exteriors, and the remaining homes are a mix of brick, metal, wood, and block. About half of the homes have brick or stone foundations, with the remainder a mix of plain face block and split face block. The development plan conditions require that exteriors of all structures consist of brick, stone, drive-it, vinyl siding, LP smart siding, cement-based siding, man-made stone, or other modern masonry materials. Neither split face block nor plain face block shall be utilized for visible finished materials. This may be limiting for proposed Lot 2, which is proposed to be 10 acres. Given the size of this lot, it is possible that someone would want to use this for an agricultural use, where you may find, in an agricultural setting, buildings that would be comprised of wood or metal, like a pole barn. Looking at building orientation and setbacks, staff has noted that existing homes are oriented to face Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, Porter Pike, and Ayers Road. Front yard setbacks along Porter Pike are roughly 150 feet and 45 to 65 feet for Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road. Currently, there are no homes on Ayers Road on the southeastern side. The applicant agreed to a 50-foot front yard setback for the proposed lots in Development Plan Condition 1, but there is no requirement that the proposed homes with frontage on both Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road and Ayers Road be constructed along Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, nor is there a requirement that homes be oriented to face Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road for such lots. The applicant also did not address building orientation for the lots with frontage on Porter Pike. Looking at the development plan conditions, those start at the bottom of page 4. The first limits the maximum number of lots to 9 and outlines a front building setback of 50 feet. 2 sets a minimum home size at 1,500 square feet. 3 requires that each home have a minimum 2-car attached garage. 4 limits building height to 2 stories. 5 outlines permitted building materials for all structures. 6 looks at utility placement. 7, tree preservation. 8, sinkholes and wetlands. 9 looks at considerations for on-site septic systems, and 10 addresses access to the property. Looking at the Focus 2030 category review, there are several items that are listed for your consideration. The first being LU 1.1.1 and 1.1.2, which look at the future land use map. LU 1.1.3 looks at compatibility. LU 2 and 2.1, which look at quality of development and protecting the character and pattern of development in the area, including the visual impact of residential lots on the current agricultural landscape and viewshed. LU 2.1.1 looks at open space. At the bottom of page 5, LU 214 PR 1.7 and NCR 1.1.6, which look at preservation of our existing tree canopy. And on page 6, we have a reference to NCR 24 and 241. The Planning Commission should determine if the creation of 9 additional lots just over a mile from the Warren County-Allen County line is appropriate, if the proposal will result in premature development pressure on the countryside, and whether or not it will set a precedent for increased density, a greater number of smaller residential lots, loss of farmland, and loss of agricultural character in the vicinity. And the Planning Commission should further consider if the development of the properties will preserve the area's rural and agricultural heritage, and if the application complies with NCR 24 and 241. Next, HN 2.1 and HN 4, which encourage an array of housing options in all parts of Warren County and diversification of new housing stock and densities in suitable locations consistent with the future land use map. The current future land use designation of agriculture is applicable to rural areas where agricultural uses are predominant with small and large-scale farm operations. The Planning Commission should determine if the subdivision of 9 lots given the required future land use map amendment to achieve such result complies with HN 2.1 and HN 4. I will jump back to page 1 and go through our points to consider. The first, we've noted that average lot sizes within a quarter of a mile and a half mile are 11.8 and 11.9 acres respectively. Second, there are currently no homes fronting Ayers Road on the southeastern side of the road. Third, Ayers Road is 13 feet wide, which is less than the current county standard for development. However, the county is not requiring any improvements to Ayers Road. 4, the proposed building materials may be prohibitive for a future lot owner of the 10-acre tract shown on the preliminary development plan who would like to use the property for agricultural purposes. And again, proposed lot 2 could be created by right under the current agricultural zoning designation. Staff suggested that it be excluded, but the applicant indicated that they wanted to include it for the purposes of the overall density calculation. If excluded, the proposed density for the remaining lots is 0.71 dwelling units per acre, which again is over 23 times the median density within a quarter of a mile and over 7 times the median density within a half mile. That is all I have for the staff report, but I am happy to answer any questions. Oh, sorry. That is not all for the staff report. On page 2, there's one more, and I think that's very similar to what I read just recently, but again, the Planning Commission should determine if the creation of 9 lots in this area is appropriate, if the proposal will result in premature development pressure on the countryside and whether or not it will set a precedent for increased density, a greater number of smaller residential lots, loss of prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance, and loss of agricultural character in the vicinity. Now, that is all for the staff report. I am happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Hurd?
Rachel, I know you met with them at the pre-application. It's just a farm that they no longer want to farm and they just want to develop it?
I believe it, well, I'll let them answer that, but I believe it may have recently been auctioned, or it could have been in the family where it was subdivided. I'm honestly not sure how it was acquired, but it has historically been farmland and was recently subdivided into the tracts that, if I go back to this plat here, that was a recent subdivision. So it's currently 4 tracts. Yeah, the proposal would result in 9 lots total.
Rachel, is it fair to say you think it's too dense?
I'd say that the planning commission should consider if the density is compatible given the information in the staff report, where we've noted that it's over 23 times the median density within a quarter of a mile.
Rachel, do you know if there's a reason why the applicant did not address building orientation for lots that front Porter Pike?
Commissioner Starks, I'm not sure why they didn't respond to that suggestion when we sent our original correspondence.
Do you know if they plan to make any of them face Ayers Road, which is only a 13-foot wide road?
Well, I think that was one of our points to consider, because one of the restrictions on access is that all lots shall be accessed only from Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, or Porter Pike, except for there will be no more than 1 access point on Ayers Road, which shall be no more than 1,216 feet from Porter Pike. And access has to be coordinated with KYTC and Warren County Public Works. So it would be very strange if we go back to the lot layout. I guess it would be strange to me if I owned one of these lots to put my home facing Ayers Road because my driveway is going to come off of Smiths Grove Scottsville Road. But right now, the way the conditions are proposed, there's really no restriction as to where they could place the home on any of these lots or which way they would face.
That's something we should consider, how to pin them down there.
Yeah, that is listed as one of our points to consider, or at least it's listed in part of the review, and I touched on that in the report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Commissioners, any other questions for Rachel?
I have one. On the 10-acre tract that is proposed just for agricultural purposes, if this future owner were to build a structure on that, do we have anything as far as the materials that could be used for any kind of barn or storage or anything like that?
Yeah, so that's one of the items we pointed out in the report, is that under the current proposal, if someone did acquire that property for agricultural use, they would not be able to build a barn out of wood or a metal pole barn because the restrictions are for all structures, not just homes.
Sorry, I missed that.
Commissioners, any other questions? Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here or their representative?
Chris Davenport, 921 College Street. I still swear to tell the truth. Commissioner Clark, let me address this issue about orientation, because I think, to quote Cool Hand Luke, maybe we had a failure to communicate. So when I got the comments back from staff, one of the comments read building orientation / front setback. And then I think it's very clear now from hearing Rachel's presentation, the staff intended, or they were communicating to me, they wanted me to address the front setbacks and also the orientation. But the paragraph really talks about what the setbacks on the other roads were. So we agreed to setbacks. You heard one of the DPCs were, I think, 50 foot along one of the roads and something along the other one. Frankly, the orientation I thought was taken care of by the restriction to Ayers Road. there can only be one access point on Ayers Road, and that DPC reads it has to be within 1,230 feet of this intersection. That won't surprise you that 1,230 feet is this boundary point. To put another way, only this big lot can have access to Ayers Road. And that was for a few reasons. The first of which was that's what Josh Moore with the county wanted. He didn't want any more than one access point, which the property could already have today, understand that. They could still access today without any rezoning.
I was thinking farm equipment. That was what I was thinking. If that's going to be farm equipment, that would be the ideal
Sure.
thing to do it, but not get on these other major roads.
And that's going to get to Commissioner Drane's question, which I'm going to answer in a minute too when we talk about farm equipment and maybe what we would anticipate or maybe what we would not anticipate. So that one access point has to be somewhere along this line, which means none of these lots can access Ayers Road, which in my mind really clarifies all of these homes are going to front this road. That being said, my clients representatives here, and we're happy to say that any lot adjacent to Smiths Grove Scottsville Road will have residences oriented towards Smiths Grove Scottsville Road. That was always the intent, and I think I failed to pick up on the fact that staff wanted me to address not only setbacks but the orientation. So we're happy to agree to that. The other reason I hinted that the reason that point is where it is in talking with Josh Moore, the other reason here is that there's a fire hydrant proximity issue. The way this survey is done, we are close enough, all the lots are close enough to the closest fire hydrant. If we subdivide any further, they are not. Okay? So that creates an issue there. I will also say, although Rachel didn't mention, originally my client had a desire to subdivide this with greater than 9 lots. The ordinance requires internal streets once you get to 11 lots. And that becomes difficult primarily due to the shape of this property. Be very difficult to have internal streets, 1 acre lots, so forth and so on. So Rachel mentioned that we are, and again, I oftentimes encourage staff to try to look greater than a quarter mile, but they do that consistently. They look at a quarter mile radius when they come to density. We knew in our meeting that they were already talking about the fact that within a quarter mile, you know, this is going to be denser than anything else, even at less than 1/2 a unit an acre, which is what this calculates out to, 0.42. Although the original plan was more than 11 lots, we went down to 9, not 10, but 9 to get under 11, and also to 9 instead of 10 because of the hydrant issue. So that's why really, if this lot was divided anymore, my understanding from talking with the engineers is those additional lots now are too far from the hydrant. So the incremental cost of developing 1 or 2 more lots. Also, Josh Moore says you got to widen Ayers Road. The incremental cost doesn't make sense. So one of the questions was the history of this property. My client did buy this property. The desire here is to divide it as reasonably as possible and then sell these lots. That's exactly what he intends to do. Okay. Commissioner Drane's question was about the buildings, and if that wasn't answered, these restrictions apply to all these lots. You know, Rachel, I was very clear up front with Rachel. The reason we included lot 10, this big lot, even though we couldn't divide it any more than it is, was because otherwise we'd be sitting here today saying this is 45 times greater than the density in a quarter mile. So, you know, anticipating that was going to be an issue, and Rachel said, why would your client want to do that? It's because he intends to sell these lots off. That is the intent. I think that's really primarily what I wanted to discuss. The only thing I'll add to it is I would encourage you all to look at this as an increase of 5 lots. Because as Rachel pointed out on the plat, as a matter of right, without any permission, they could pull permits and develop 4 lots tomorrow. So when we talk about quote the added strain or quote the, you know, the neighbor. It's really 5 lots what we're talking about. I don't want to wax too poetic about the need for houses, but we know we need them. Rachel did mention during some of our conversations that this is out in the county, and it is. It is out in the county. We had an application tonight that's out in the county off of New Cut Road, and while working on that project, I noted the subdivisions that literally sit on the Allen County line. There are about 3 of them. So, you know, just because it's out in the county doesn't mean it's completely unprecedented. It may be somewhat unprecedented in a 1/4 mile radius. I will acknowledge that. But the give and take here is you're adding 5 lots, and then you've got these design restrictions that go with it, square foot minimums and so forth. Understand, if they divided 4 lots today, there's no restriction on access to Ayers Road if they did that. You could build anything you wanted to on it. You could have access to Ayers Road, and in order to bring this presentation, this landowner's having to give up that availability. So I do think there's give and take involved.
And number 5 in the detailed development plan conditions, are we taking out vinyl siding?
So in talking with Mr. Seibel, who's the representative of Mr. McGee, he would be agreeable to 25% minimum brick, stone, or hardy board on all residences.
Chris, would your client be agreeable to the front facades?
That would be the intention. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you would rather word it that way,
I think we'd rather word
I'm
it that
happy
way.
to do that. It'd be probably a pretty hard sell if your back facade or rear facade was brick.
Well, but I mean, just.
Yes, sir.
Just for the record.
The facade of each residence shall be constructed of brick, stone, or hardy board?
Yes, sir.
The front, I'm sorry.
The front facade of each residence shall consist of brick, stone, drive it, or other cement-based siding, man-made stone or modern masonry materials. So I will eliminate vinyl siding and LP Smart siding from the front facades of the residences.
And we're also going to add a sentence, I suggest, to number 3, that any lot adjacent to Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road shall have residences which face Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road.
On number 3,
That's what I propose.
I would suggest maybe we do it on number 1 because that's where your minimum front setbacks are. And it just kind of, at least in my mind, makes sense that to put it there.
Lot 1.
I'm not following you.
Building orientation.
Oh, for lot 1.
1 acre lot?
Yeah, we can say that the lot depicted, that's gonna be,
Because that would only have frontage on Porter Pike.
how about if we said, any lot with frontage only on Porter Pike shall be oriented, the residence shall be oriented towards Porter Pike? Because lot 2 technically has,
It
could be either one. I'm writing this down. I'm going to read it back to you, Ham, make sure I've got it right. Okay, so what I've got is on number 1, 2 sentences added. Homes on lots adjacent to Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road shall be oriented towards Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road. Homes on lots adjacent to only Porter Pike shall be oriented towards Porter Pike. And you need, I guess you need Mr. Seibel to swear to those, the representative.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Matthew Seibel, 2388 Liberty Road, Battletown, Kentucky.
You swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Seibel, did you hear the changes we made to the 2 development conditions, one being the orientation of houses along Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road, the orientation of the house on Porter Pike, and then the requirement that the front facades of each residence will consist of brick, stone, drive-it, cement-based siding, man-made stone, or other modern masonry materials?
I did, and I agree. I do want to mention one other thing as far as the farm ground is considered. This is really unfenced pasture ground. It's not being farmed and hasn't been farmed in quite some time.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Commissioners, any other questions, Chris, before you sit down? Any other questions? Thank
If
you.
I don't get a chance, Mr. Jones, good luck up north. Felt like I just started to know you.
Is there anyone in the audience tonight that has a question or opposition to this request? Okay, hearing none, would call for a motion on the Flume Amendment.
Make the motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment docket number 2022-09 Flume based on the testimony document presented at the public hearing. The proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU 1.1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Drane?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren?
Yes. Call for a motion, please, on the zoning map amendment.
I make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan, docket number 2022-19-Z-County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adoptive comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Drane?
Yes.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld? Commissioner Vitale?
Sir.
Commissioner Volkert? Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. The motion passed, goes to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Our last item tonight is 2022-28Z County. Housing Authority of BG, care of Abraham Williams, has filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 23.27 acres located at 0 Double Springs Road across from Grissom Court from RS1A, single-family residential, RS1C, single-family residential, and RM3 townhouse multifamily residential to RS1D single-family residential with a general development plan.
Thank you, Chair Warren. We had a pre-app on February 23rd for the properties you see here outlined in yellow. They are a smattering of zonings, including RS1A, RS1C, and RM3. The existing land use is agriculture. The future land use is moderate density residential. And you've got the exhibit there for your reference on your screens. Again, that's 23.27 acres to go from RS1C RS1A and RM3 to go all the way to RS1D in order to develop the property with a maximum of 80 single-family residential lots. Unlike the rest of the properties that we've seen tonight, this property is already flume compliant with the moderate density residential flume category, and they are proposing 3.44 dwelling units per acre. Looking on over to page 2, you'll see the considerations for that future land use map category. That is moderate density again. We've got our site characteristics and review criteria. I will note under natural features that the applicants did agree in DPC X or 10 to some tree preservation. Looking on down to site design and compatibility review, I'll call out that within a quarter mile densities range from 0 to 10.65 dwelling units per acre with a median density of 3.25 and an average of 2.79 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density here is 3.44. Looking on down to surrounding architectural features, single family structures have in the area at least a one-car attached garage, and home sizes fronting Double Springs Road range from roughly 1,200 square feet to roughly 2,600 square feet, with a median home size of roughly 1,300 and an average of roughly 1,500 square feet. The proposed minimum home size here is 1,200 square feet, and there is no requirement that they incorporate a garage. Looking on over to the next page under building materials review, the existing homes along Double Springs Road have exteriors comprised of brick and cementitious siding with brick or stone foundations. DPC number 3 does not limit the amount of vinyl that can be utilized, and building foundation materials may include split face block. And then under landscaping and screening, side and or rear facing facade should be screened from Double Springs Road. DPC 7 requires that lots with rear facades facing Double Springs be screened with a 10-foot landscape buffer with the 6 evergreen, 3 deciduous trees per 100 linear feet, but there's no requirement for such side facades. Looking on down, you'll see the considerations for a traffic impact study. One was waived by the city of Bowling Green in this instance. If you flip on over to page 4, if you look at the top of the page, you'll see that Public Works staff requested the proposed entrance line up with Grissom Court on the other side of Double Springs Road, and that stormwater drainage improvements at or near the entrance be subject to review and approval by Bowling Green Stormwater Management. And the applicants agreed to this in DPC number 8. Looking on down to those development plan conditions, the DPCs are as follows. Number 1 deals with utility allocation. Number 2 limits the property to a maximum of 80 single-family dwelling units. Number 3 deals with facade materials, and that they shall be constructed with vinyl, stone, brick, LP smart siding, or other modern masonry materials. Plain face block shall not be used as a visible material for foundation or otherwise. All driveways shall be concrete or asphalt. Each resident shall have a minimum of 1,200 square feet of heated living space exclusive of garages and porches, and that this development plan shall remain a development plan only until the recordation of a subdivision plat, and then that turns into a plat restriction or a deed restriction. Number 4 deals with street lighting. Number 5 says that the property will be developed with sidewalks on at least one side of the street. Number 6 deals with residential lots not having access to Double Springs Road. Number 7 has that rear facade screening requirement I referenced before. Again, that is 10-foot landscape buffer, 6 evergreens, 3 deciduous per 100 linear feet. Number 8 I referenced a moment ago with the access coordination with the Public Works, and again that is that it will be aligned with Grissom Court across the street, and that the stormwater drainage improvements at or near the entrance will be subject to the review and approval by the City of BG Stormwater Management. Number 9 says that the property will have a minimum of 3.5 acres of common open space, and number 10 deals with tree preservation. Looking on over to your Focus 2030 category review, staff identified 17 items, 13 of which are in compliance. Again, I'm going to just go over the points to consider because they mostly echo the ones I would go over, but I will read those 4 for you. Number 1 on the points to consider, single-family structures located on Double Springs Road have at least a one-car attached garage, and there is no requirement that the proposed homes incorporate a garage. Number 2, the existing residential structures along Double Springs have exteriors comprised of brick and cementitious siding with brick or stone foundations, and the proposed materials outlined in DPC 3 are not consistent with the materials for those existing structures. Number 3, there is no requirement that the side-facing facades adjacent on 4 homes located on lots adjacent to Double Springs Road be screened. And lastly, a majority of the existing public streets in the vicinity incorporate sidewalks on both sides of the street. The applicants are proposing to install them on at least one side of the street, but did not commit to anything further in the DPCs. That's all I've got for the staff report, but I'll take questions.
Thank you, Zach. Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Jones?
Zach, has the applicant indicated the time frame on development?
That would be a good question for them.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is the applicant here or their representative?
Tim Bridgman, 1010 College Street, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman.
Abraham Williams, 1601 Crownwood Court, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Commissioner Starks, to answer your question, as soon as we can get approval, plan to get started. Happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah.
I assume lot 61 is 3.5 acre, the common area? Yes. Okay, I assume that's why you don't want it opening off to.
Mr. Bridgman, in point number 2 on our staff report, it says most of the other residential structures along Double Springs Road have brick and cementitious siding with brick or stone foundations. You all are not proposing any brick or modern masonry materials. Are these going to be vinyl?
No, we are proposing brick, stone, LP Smart siding, but we're also giving the option for vinyl as well.
But what amount would you be willing to commit to as far as vinyl versus other building materials? It's kind of something we ask everybody.
Yeah.
80 to 90%.
With vinyl. We would like to have at least 80 to 90% of the proposed homes to have vinyl.
If we narrow it down to one number.
Any way that we can set just the front facades, if you look at the front facade, it's probably not much more than 20%.
Well, they just committed to 80 to 90%.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 80, 90 of vinyl. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. That's right.
You said vinyl.
That's right.
Wait a minute.
We're saying 80.
Vinyl.
Saying vinyl.
80 or 90% vinyl.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, okay. So could we get you to commit just to the front facades being brick?
We're trying to make these houses affordable, and again, it's going to be infrastructure about $1.5 million and all that, so we're trying to get as much as affordable as we possibly can.
But we want to have a nice product when it's done. It's compatible. We do this with everybody. It's not picking on you.
Yeah, because everything around there, isn't most everything brick?
It is.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I mean, I think, you know, the front facade should be no more than, really, having to put the garage in there, I mean, 10 to 15% is really right at the front facade, isn't it?
I think instead of doing percentages, just say that all front.
That's what I'm saying.
Just instead of saying percentages, all fronts would be brick or modern materials.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. That'll save
$2.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
I think it's great what you're doing.
No, thanks.
I mean, I think it's awesome, so, but I think we could just
Stretch it up a little bit.
I think that's great, kind of go with the rest of the
community.
And this is not in there, but we do plan to have a minimum requirement of at least one car garage.
That's another condition you're agreeing to, Mr. Bridgman?
Yes.
Okay.
That's something we omitted, but it should have been in the DPCs.
Commissioners, before we ask for them to put this on the record, are there any other questions? We've addressed the front facades and the one-car garage. Are there any other questions for Mr. Williams or Mr. Bridgman? So, Hamp, we've got two conditions that on the DCP will be changed.
Yes, sir.
DPC, excuse me.
Mr. Williams, you've heard recited the requirements that the front facades of each of the residential structures, excluding gables and soffits, which may be vinyl, will be constructed of brick. Is that agreeable to you?
It is.
Okay. And did you also hear the recitation that there will be at least a one-car garage with each residential structure? And is that agreeable with you?
It is.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bridgman, you have any other, or Mr. Williams, any other questions for the commission? Thank you all for your time tonight. So the development plan conditions have been changed. So commissioners, we would call for a vote on the motion for the zoning map amendment, excuse me.
I may have forgotten, but may the record reflect that there's no opposition here?
Excuse me, is there any opposition? Don, do you have any opposition to this? Thank you, Mr. Moore. There is no opposition, so if we could have a motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with a condition upon the general development plan, document 2022-28-Z-county, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Drane?
Yes, sir.
Chair Warren?
Yes, sir. The motion is approved and will go to the Warren County Fiscal Court. Thank you all for your time tonight.
I don't think I've ever seen Abraham say as little.
Ben, do we have any new business?
No new business. Just to mention that as of time we adjourn, we'll have two positions open tonight. We have already advertised those positions. We've got an excellent response to the jobs. We have advertised administrative coordinator, of which we received almost 25 applications. And then planner, one position, which we've gotten 15 applications and great qualifications. So we're hope to fill those as quickly as possible and hope to have some candidates before you at one of the next two meetings. Other than that, the only other thing I have is just say thank you to Zach. Wish you well and thank you for your service.
I know our next meeting is Cinco de Mayo.
We have a meeting sometime right around Christmas.
We had a margarita, margaritas and chips.
We'll have a meeting right around Christmas time when you come in to visit your family.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Chips and salsa.
There's no other discussion items.
Margaritas.
We stand adjourned. Our next our next meeting will be a training session?
Yeah, it'll be a training session, and I've just been reminded it's Cinco de Mayo, so we'll see.
Crazy in
We'll
here.
see what we can do, but I think we're gonna put Hamp on stage, and of course I'll participate too, as far as mostly discussing meeting decorum and procedures and that type of thing. So, and then I'm sure we'll discuss, have plenty of other to discuss too. We'll kind of leave it as an open discussion as well, so.
Well, Ben, just want to say thank you to Rachel, you and Rachel, and y'all are carrying a lot of water right now, and we appreciate everything you all are doing in this interim time. So thank you very much. We stand adjourned.